Sometimes you get a call, and it's on someone you know, but you know, then you have to do your job.
Most supervisors, whether they make the right call or the wrong call, the employees on the floor, they do appreciate it, and they see that somebody is trying to help.
As a supervisor, you play an important role in protecting your employees and the public from injury or even death. This final segment of the program is going to review your responsibilities as a supervisor, the FTA regulations for making reasonable suspicion determinations, and detail the interview and referral process. One of the most important functions you perform as a supervisor is watching your employees for indications of drug and alcohol use and making reasonable suspicion determinations. It is important to note that long-term indicators such as absenteeism, tardiness, occupational injuries, or moving traffic violations are not a basis for a reasonable suspicion determination. Now, the FTA does not require a supervisor to document each and every reasonable suspicion determination in writing, but any documentation generated must be saved for at least 1 year. A reasonable suspicion determination has to be based on contemporaneous, articulable observation. That means you have to be able to clearly explain what you see right then concerning behavior, speech, appearance, and body odor of the covered employee. For drugs, these observations can be made at any time. For alcohol, you must make the observation just before, during, or immediately after the covered employee performs a safety-sensitive function. Remember the reasonable and prudent rule of thumb that another trained and experienced supervisor in the same situation would come to the same conclusion based on appearance, behavior, speech, or body odors of the covered employee.
It is important to be confident in a reasonable suspicion, no matter what you say it is, or the diplomatic way you say it, or the polite way you say it. They're looking at it as being accused of being on drugs and alcohol.
Once you've made a reasonable suspicion determination, you must speak to the employee immediately. Approach them in a confidential, non-judgmental, and non-accusatory manner, and tell them you need to speak with them privately. Once you're in a private situation, inform the employee of your reasonable suspicion determination and that he or she is being referred for an alcohol and drug test. Do not attempt to diagnose the employee's problems or behavior. Allow the employee the opportunity to describe the events that took place from his or her perspective. Denial should be an expected reaction. If a person knows they will test positive, they may give many explanations and protest strongly to avoid testing. At all times, it is important that you respect the dignity and confidentiality of the employee. You conclude the encounter by telling the employee where to report for the test.
We had a man that had an alcohol problem, and the supervisor, the frontline supervisor, picked the problem up. He came to me about the problem. We talked to the man and tried to encourage him to do something. And after about 3 days, he did come to us and he did seek help. And he's been a good employee ever since then.
Although it's not legally mandated or required, it is recommended that the individual be accompanied to the designated test center or collection site. It's not wise to let an employee who's under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs proceed alone to the site or to drive home. It's not safe for the employee, and others can be endangered as well. Leaving the individual on their own gives them the opportunity to ingest another substance that could affect test results. It is also possible they won't show up for the test. An employee's refusal to submit to a test constitutes an immediate positive drug or alcohol test result. In the instance of a refusal or actual positive drug or alcohol test result, the employee is immediately removed from his or her safety-sensitive position and immediately referred to a substance abuse professional for evaluation. The FTA rules do not require that an employee who tests positive or who refuses to take a test be terminated. In fact, your employer may have a second chance policy. However, such an employee may not perform a safety-sensitive function again until he or she has been evaluated by the substance abuse professional, successfully completed rehabilitation as recommended by the substance abuse professional, undergone a second evaluation, and passed a return to duty test. It's your job as a supervisor to make reasonable suspicion determinations. It may not be the easiest thing to do, but remember, it saves lives.